It's Black History Month, and this time of year, we here at Providence try to shine a light on Black maritime history. Did you know that 70% of all published slave escape narratives mention maritime escapes as their main method of transport? Hello, and welcome to another Tall Ship Tuesday. My name is Caroline, and this week we are taking a brief look at the Maritime Underground Railroad. When I was in school learning about the Underground Railroad, I know I had the impression that it was an overland operation, but this simply isn't the case. Overland escapes had to happen very close, within a few miles of the border of a free state. Maritime escapes allowed for folks in the deep South to also have a chance at freedom. Now, I want to emphasize that the information presented here in this short video is just a starting point. We want to give a brief overview of the topic and provide you with places to learn more. All of the sources that we use to inform this video will be linked in this week's adventure page down below deck. We will also provide some additional information there, so definitely go check that out. I also want to highlight my starting point for research today, and that I will be referencing from time to time throughout this video. Cassandra Newby-Alexander, Cheryl Jennifer LaRoche, and Timothy Walker participated in a moderated discussion on the Library of Congress's YouTube page. You can click up in the corner of this screen now to take you to that video if you want to learn more about the things I talk about in this video. Cassandra Newby-Alexander also has a book, Virginia Waterways and the Underground Railroad, that was very helpful in researching parts of this video. I highly recommend you check that out at your local library or purchase it for yourself. Again, links down below deck. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the maritime history of the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad is an intricate network of abolitionists, formerly enslaved people, and even those that were still held captive in the South that all worked together to help Black freedom seekers escape north to freedom. By its nature, this network was secretive, and therefore hard to pinpoint some of the specifics. We know about the Maritime Underground Railroad from advertisements about escaped slaves speculating a maritime route, from some of the surviving first-hand accounts of freed African Americans, abolitionist newspapers, laws, and regulations of the time, and by looking at the geography of Black communities and settlements in the North. Cheryl LaRoche and her work on the geography of resistance illuminates some interesting parts of the Maritime Underground Railroad. One thing that is commonly found in her research is that many of the stations of the Underground Railroad were in Black churches. Many of these churches were located along waterfronts and were places that escaped Black folks could safely continue on their way to freedom. They were waypoints along rivers that conductors could use. These conductors would facilitate the movement of freedom seekers across the river in flatboats. One conductor, John P. Parker, was active along the Ohio River. He was born into slavery in Norfolk, Virginia, and after escaping slavery, dedicated his life to helping others escape. He was thought to have helped hundreds of escaped slaves flee to freedom across the Ohio River from Kentucky. Parker would take his flatboat in the middle of the night and send those he ferried to safe houses once in the North. Major ports were another place escaped Black folks in the South could flee. Norfolk, a major port city in Virginia, had everything from schooners to steamships. Slave owners there trained almost all of their enslaved men to be watermen for their plantation work. Thus, slaves operated all kinds of boats and performed specialized duties on board ships. They were carpenters, shipwrights, blacksmiths, and more. They were an integral part of the labor on and around ships, and this meant that laws could not ban Black folks from being in these ports at all hours. It also meant that this was a crucial part of the Underground Railroad. Captains would have secret compartments on their ships to hide escaped African Americans. Captain Alfred Fountain had a compartment he could ferry 22 to 25 people on a journey to northern ports. Crew and stewards could also smuggle folks into places like the boiler rooms of ships for these journeys. It could be cramped with little to eat or drink, but at least it would not be a long and treacherous trip. This brings us to an important note. These maritime journeys were one of the fastest and safest methods to freedom. Boats were much faster than overland passage, with fewer places that these freedom seekers could be discovered. 3 miles offshore was the boundary to international waters at the time, and once past that point, many could breathe a little bit more easily, as the hardest part of the escape was almost over. As this became an increasingly popular method of escape, more laws and regulations were passed to crack down on these conductors along the coast. More mandatory inspections of ships were performed, and the penalties for those assisting in the escape of this property to the north were harshly enforced. For Black folks, this was a capital punishment for many of them, and possibly even for their families. White folks more commonly faced fines and imprisonment, and this also wasn't even always the case. Regardless of the risk, though, there were hundreds and thousands of people willing to risk their lives to bring these freedom seekers to safety. These American heroes risked their lives for what they knew was right for themselves, their families, and their communities. I hope you learned a little bit about this important part of our history, and I urge you to continue learning about this topic. Again, links and references are in this week's adventure page, and while you're down there, leave a comment about some of the things that we weren't able to get to in this video. There's so much that we simply didn't have time to get to, and that should be left to those who actually study this period of American history. Thank you all for joining the Tall Ship Providence Foundation on this Tall Ship Tuesday. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to our channel. We put out new educational material each week about maritime history, seamanship, tall ships, and even the occasional sea shanty. So don't forget to share this with someone who might want to learn something new. Until next time, we hope to see you back again on another Tall Ship Tuesday. Bye.